Today, America's Manchurian president made his decision. He prefers conflict oil from thugs like Hugo Chavez and the Saudi princes over ethical oil from Canada. That's tonight on The Source. Barack Hussein Obama, the first post-American president of the United States, has made a staggering strategic decision. He chose to continue buying oil from OPEC countries instead of Canada. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the source of 15 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11. Saudi Arabia, which to this day is the world's largest financier of terrorists. It's America's enemy. But Obama has decided he likes being Saudi Arabia's customer. There's something creepy about Obama and Saudi Arabia. I mean, look at him bowing to the king of Saudi Arabia. Americans aren't like Canadians. They're not a monarchy. They bow to no one. They don't have a queen, let alone a foreign king. A deep, servile bow. Let's run that again. Let's look at that bowing clip just one more time. It's just craziness. Obama thought that by bowing to the Saudi king, maybe Arabia would love America more. Well, they don't. Obama's actually more despised in the Middle East, according to public opinion polls, than George W. Bush was. But Obama's decision today to buy oil from OPEC instead of to approve the Keystone XL pipeline is an especially big win for Hugo Chavez of Venezuela. Venezuela, the great ally of Iran. Venezuela, where Chavez has shut down opposition newspapers and radio and TV stations, where he has crushed labor unions and attacked Aboriginal groups. Venezuela, another enemy of America. You see, Venezuela sells an enormous amount of oil to the United States, about 800,000 barrels a day. At $100 a barrel, that's $80 million a day. That's about $30 billion a year that America pays to its greatest enemy in the Western Hemisphere. Here's the thing. Venezuela's oil is shipped in by tanker ship to the Gulf Coast of Texas. It's heavy oil, by the way, which means that its carbon footprint is among the highest of any oil sources in the world. It has a higher carbon footprint per barrel even than Canadian oil sands oil. But the Keystone XL pipeline that was proposed would have added about 700,000 barrels a day in capacity, bringing oil from Canada's oil sands and the Bakken Formation in North Dakota and Saskatchewan all the way down to those same Texas refineries. In other words, the Keystone XL pipeline was a very specific challenge to one of OPEC's bullies, a direct substitute for Venezuelan oil. So this isn't some abstract question about ethical oil versus conflict oil. This isn't an academic debate or a political talking point. This is a very specific, real-world decision. Today, Barack Obama made the decision. Who does Obama want to get its oil from? Canada or Venezuela? Well, he chose Venezuela by saying no to the Keystone XL pipeline. He chose Venezuela over Canada. He chose America's enemies over America's closest friend and ally. He chose the human rights violator, Chavez, over the world's gentlest country, Canada. Look at how chummy Obama is with Chavez. Look at them hug, for crying out loud. They give high fives to each other. That's how Obama treats an enemy of America. It's unthinkable that Obama would show such affection and personal rapport for Canada's leader, the democratically elected Stephen Harper. Obama treats his friends like his enemies, and he treats his enemies like his friends. And now he just made a decision to give Venezuela unfettered access to U.S. oil markets for the foreseeable future. Of course he did. Now, when Obama was running for president back in 2008, he promised he would do the opposite because he was trying to win votes from, Americans. He wasn't sucking up to foreign dictators yet. He hadn't high-fived Chavez yet. He hadn't bowed to the Saudi king yet. Here's Obama promising to get off of Middle East and Venezuelan oil when he was running for president. Look at this.
So if I'm president, I'm immediately going to direct the full resource of the federal government and the full energy of the private sector to a single overarching goal. In 10 years' time, we are going to eliminate the need for oil from the entire Middle East and Venezuela. We're going to just eliminate it in 10 years' time.
Well, that was 4 years ago now almost. Did you get that? He didn't say he wanted to get off all imports. The U.S. imports almost 10 million barrels a day. Of course, he can't turn off imports from Canada and Mexico, but he listed the world's evil regimes, Middle Eastern dictatorships, and that thug from Caracas, Hugo Chavez. That's what Obama promised in his presidential campaign almost 4 years ago, but he lied. Why did he lie? Well, if you ask the White House today, they'll tell you that the problem with the Keystone XL pipeline proposal is that it passes over something called the Ogallala Aquifer, a precious source of water that must be protected. Well, that sounds like an amazing oasis. Maybe it's like something in a national park. Really? No. the Ogallala Aquifer covers a huge swath of the United States. I mean, many states. And this aquifer is crisscrossed by thousands of miles of oil and gas pipes. Look at those. Those are the pipes. That's the Ogallala Aquifer. That's a map of it right there. Thousands of miles of pipes, many built decades ago as opposed to the Keystone XL pipe, which would be built to the highest modern standards of technology and safety. You were looking, that pink zone there is the Ogallala Aquifer, by the way. So it's a fake excuse. But guess what? Keystone XL's builder, TransCanada Pipelines, agreed anyways to move the pipeline route. They made that change last year. The new pipeline route is endorsed by both the Democratic and Republican senators of Nebraska, which was the state in question. Everyone wants this project to go now. Well, except Hugo Chavez and the Saudis, and Obama chose them. He also made a domestic political choice to go with the Hollywood airheads like Daryl Hannah and other millionaire liberals who jet around and use the environment as a chance to appear really smart. So by nixing the pipeline, Obama probably guaranteed himself $20 million worth of fundraising parties in Malibu from starlets, plus the support of professional activists like Greenpeace and other lobby groups during his re-election campaign. And all those pipeline construction jobs, those men who are now going to be leaning on shovels, well, they're in states that were going to vote Republican anyways. I mean, Nebraska, so, I mean, who cares about them? Obama has made his choice. He has chosen to side with America's enemies against America's friend, to side with celebrity airheads instead of Americans in flyover country, desperate for work in a massive infrastructure project that didn't need any BS taxpayer stimulus money to build. It was shovel ready now. Obama made his choice. Fine. So now let's make ours. Obama made a decision that was not in America's interest, and he may pay for that in the election later this year. I hope he does. But whether or not it was in the U.S. interest is ultimately up to U.S. voters to decide. It's clear his decision was not in the Canadian interest, though. So let's start looking out for ourselves a bit, okay? I mean, let's look out for our jobs and our economy and our national sovereignty. Right now, 100% of our oil exports go down to the U.S., about 2.2 million barrels of oil a day. Now, that's great. But now Obama's saying no to a new pipeline and yes to our competitors. I mean, it's only common sense that we would build a pipeline to the West Coast now to sell oil by tanker ship to Asia, to Japan, India, Korea, Taiwan. Those countries together import more oil than the U.S. does. And in China, and in that country, it's by far the biggest market in the world, Asia is. Now, right now, all those Asian countries are buying oil from dictatorships. They have to. I mean, China in particular is so desperate for oil that it buys it from Sudan and Iran, countries that are under international sanctions from most of the rest of the world. So it's in our Canadian economic interest to sell our oil to China and the rest of Asia. And it's actually in our ethical interest, too, to take market share away from Iran and Sudan so that Chinese money comes to us instead of those rogue states. It is a moral improvement for China to buy its oil from us instead of Sudan or Iran. Now, that pipeline to the West Coast is called the Northern Gateway, and it's proposed by a Canadian company called Enbridge. It's an all-Canadian decision, unlike the Keystone XL pipeline that crossed the U.S. border, and so it was subject to Obama's veto. Now, the Northern Gateway pipeline is all-Canadian, but that's the problem. U.S.-funded American lobby groups have opposed the Northern Gateway pipeline. They're interfering. Let me say that again. U.S. groups are interfering with a completely Canadian decision to export our oil. Big U.S. foundations with strong links to the Obama administration have been meddling in our domestic affairs, jamming up our regulatory process for the Northern Gateway. I mean, New York's Rockefeller Foundation, for example, has spent millions opposing Canadian resource development. So has San Francisco's Tides Foundation. Close to $300 million of U.S. special interest money has flooded into Canada over the past 10 years to stop things like the oil sands and now this proposed pipeline. Now, these foreign meddlers have tried to rig our review panel looking at the Northern Gateway pipeline. Here's one foreign-funded lobbyist named Eric Swanson, whose group took $600,000 in U.S. money. He's boasting about how he's rigged Canada's process. Look at this.
We're actually very happy. We helped sign up 1,600 people to participate at those hearings.
He's very happy about it. He's boasting about it. He signed up 1,600 people to jam the system. You have a U.S. paid lobbyist bragging about putting people to testify before a Canadian review panel just for the purpose of jamming it up. The Tides Foundation and its Canadian affiliate alone, just that group, have funded no fewer than 36 cookie-cutter lobby groups to oppose our pipeline. They funded 36 6 of them. So it looks like there's a lot of different people mad about the pipeline, but it's actually just one American octopus of special interest. Highly connected U.S. Democrats hate the Northern Gateway pipeline too. Remember what Patrick Moore, the founder of Greenpeace, told me yesterday on the show, that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., from the most connected Democratic family in the U.S., has been very influential in attacking these pipelines, especially Keystone XL, and his allies have attacked our Northern Gateway proposal too. Here's Patrick Moore yesterday.
It's the NRDC in Washington, D.C. Robert Kennedy Jr., Bobby Kennedy Jr. is one of the principals in that organization. This is very high up in the Democratic Party in the United States. This ability to have stopped Obama from approving the pipeline before an election shows the power that these people actually have.
But it's not just American Democrats. I mean, here's a letter from Hugo Chavez's state-owned oil company, Citgo, demanding that Canada not build our Northern Gateway pipeline. Look at the letter for a second. It's a letter right there. So let's sum up. You've got a post-American president who loves dictators. He's blocked a pipeline from Canada called Keystone XL. His excuse is false. The EPA has already given the project an environmental green light. It's about politics, really, appeasing foreigners and raising money from Hollywood. It's a disgrace, but look, that's an American disgrace. It's his business. So now our business as Canadians is to sell our oil to Asia, not just for our economic success, but to prove that we're an independent country. I mean, if Obama doesn't want our oil, well, that's the rest of the world. The rest of the world does. We don't need just to wait for Obama. Let me play that broken campaign promise from Obama one more time. Look at what he said. Look what he said.
So if I'm president, I'm immediately going to direct the full resource of the federal government and the full energy of the private sector to a single overarching goal. In 10 years' time, we are going to eliminate the need for oil from the entire Middle East and Venezuela. We're going to just eliminate it in 10 years' time.
Well, that's a lie. Obama made a decision to keep buying oil from a tyrant and tell Canada to go to hell. Well, let me leave you with one more campaign promise from Obama. This one.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
That's true. Obama promised to fundamentally transform America. That's a promise, unfortunately, that he's kept. Obama's decisions are bad for America. They're bad for U.S. jobs, bad for U.S. energy security and U.S. foreign political entanglements, but they're bad for us, too. Now, we love America. We did before Obama came along. We do now, and we will after Obama is gone. But let's not sit by the phone waiting for Obama to love us in return. Let's open up markets in Asia and grow up as a country with friends and trading partners around the world. This is about self-respect now. And you know what? It'll make America respect us more, too.